What's up, everybody? Welcome to yet another session. I finally found this extender tube that I was looking for. So this is the 8-inch Nexstar, but it's got an extender now, so it's a slightly wider shot. Means we can fit the whole moon in frame. That's pretty sweet. What's up there, Mary? What's up there, Tom? What's up, Mojo? And everyone joining. It was looking a little hazy, but it feels like it's cleared. This is a nice 53% waxing gibbous. Tons of great geometry to look at tonight. What's up there, Ellie? I'm going on early tonight, so hopefully everybody will be able to catch it. So I'm not sure if I would call it a conjunction necessarily, but there's definitely an alignment with the moon in the southwest. We've got Jupiter in the south, and then Saturn in the southeast. So there is a kind of alignment of planets and the moon tonight. It's very beautiful. If you go outside and look due south, you'll see it. What's up, Mark? Mark says, can we get a zoom, please? We sure can, but I'm just starting the show. So typically I'll get a wide shot first for a little bit, and then when people stream in, we'll do some zoomed in looks for sure. What's happening, Leo? Yeah, so I feel like the shot is super crispy right now. Let me know if the audio's coming through clear. I'm trying to play some tracks that I haven't played. So I think it's going to be a chill stream tonight. I don't know, maybe chat about plasma cosmology, but I feel like I've been talking a lot the last few nights. So I'm just going to play some tunes and take questions if y'all want. If you have any old school tunes you want me to play, I'll do that. And let's enjoy these beautiful views together. Everything is indeed electric. just housed some pasta too. I had some interesting like artisanal pasta with piasta with a little butter, goat cheese, black pepper, and a little lemon. So that was my dinner. I finally remembered to have it before the show. But ramen sounds actually pretty good too. Oh, sad face though. Maybe too much ramen. What's up, Reptilian Research? How's it going? What up, Mojo? Oh, Mojo, you were here earlier. Too bright, too bright. Yeah, I was just seeing if we could see the dark side and see if I could show the clouds, but it's a bit harsh. Also zoomed in and adjust the focus ever so much. What up, Super Must See? What's really nice is I also have a little bit of coffee, so cheers to everybody. Just enough to get through the show. Play this song. Where's the song? Time to make dinner. So very chill tonight. I hope the weather stays clement and keeps getting clearer. Apparently not apparently, but as I see in Stellarium, there's a nice Jupiter lunar alignment tonight. We got an update with Saturn. Titan has moved closer and further to the right, so we can compare the shot. And again, we can look at some of the geometry on the moon. Mare Crisium still looking like a hexagon. Mare Serenitatis at the top has its own kind of angles, maybe a little bit like a pentagon, and bordering on what looks like two intersecting rectangles and Tranquility Base. Lots of amazing geometry once you look for it, plus a very clear feature. Let me double check this on the atlas. But right under the Terminator, there's a very clear hexagonal crater, which is... I'm gonna say it's Albategnius or Hipparchus, but we'll zoom in and take a look shortly. Says, could not shop food today, a lot of storms and no butter or coffee, but I appreciate the noodles, air conditioning, and space fam. Well, I've turned off the AC for the vibration, so I got noodles and space fam. And no butter either actually, but luckily coffee. So yeah, we're gonna zoom in right at the center for a second. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Check out the hexagons right here. Yo, what up, Shockwave? Welcome, welcome. Another night, another moon, another opportunity to talk about our plasma universe and hang out with y'all. You know how we do. Got so many damn feelings about it. Sometimes you gotta just let it all sink in. Yo, what's going on, Scott Wagner? Welcome. Tom Buddha says, energy, frequency, vibration. After Shockwave says, the birth of a cell looks like a dying star. All great comments, or what they call the death of a star. What does Scott Wagner say? He says, are they making advancements with telescopes like we see in the digital cameras? I used to be a 35mm slide film camera up to DSLR now, but also have the P900 and zoom that is breathtaking. Yeah, the P900 does a great job. I heard the P1000, right, that just came out, it's even better. For me, I started kind of doing the research first as opposed to buying the camera. So I kind of bought actually this rig right here is pretty close to what the original rig was. So an 8-inch Nexstar and a Sony Alpha 6500 here, but I started with the Sony Alpha 6000. And I chose it because of the budget, of course, but also because it was lightweight. And I feel like a big deal with astrophotography is kind of jitteriness. I mean, even here you can see when I zoom in, it's very jittery. So, but a medium format mirrorless is usually way lighter than a DSLR with an adapter. So, are they making advancements with telescopes? In terms of that, I think you can definitely say they are. They're making advancements in terms of mounts for telescopes. So there are many more choices nowadays. There are mounts that are fully Wi-Fi, and mount is basically what you put the telescope on and use it for tracking. Telescopes themselves have been pretty advanced for a while, and it really is the quality of the mirror and the glass and the make of the tube itself, but the technology doesn't really have much further than it's been without adding things like, like a good mount or a special eyepiece. But really magnification, noise, signal to noise ratio, which is really just, if you can look at the screen right now, you'll see that kind of yellow grain. That's signal to noise, so you're trying to get as much detail with the least amount of noise possible. That's sort of the ultimate, the holy grail of astrophotography. So sometimes you do that with stacking and then processing, but for me, like stacking and processing, it takes so much time, and it does yield amazing results, but in a way, seeing the live moon and live Jupiter, even at slightly less quality, is more entertaining in a way. It's also less time consuming. So streaming it live is sort of the most efficient way to get the most high quality data, and we're getting closer and closer to the day where you can live stack. So even now I could theoretically like stack images of a nebula, and we could see the nebular material and different things that you wouldn't normally see in optical range. I could go on a lot about cameras, so that's a little tidbit, but I feel like 35mm is still kind of better than most digital cameras. But I think with the next pass, like A7R3, A7R4, when that becomes the low end, then we've reached that kind of match where you really can't tell anymore. Yo, what's going on, Tammy? You made it. Nice to see you. Yeah, you just got here 20 minutes in, just talking about cameras. Shockwave, the telescope will stop jittering if you stop humping it. La la la, I know you love it, but come on, man. No, it's yeah. Joke aside, I definitely pet my telescopes. I walk by and I'm like, you've done good. You've done good, old 8-inch. But all jokes aside, it's on a staircase right now, which is attached to a house which has 3 air conditioners going full blast. And actually mine is not on right now, but 2 ACs full blast from neighbors. And so I got an entire vibrating staircase that the scope is doing like wonders to even be as still as it is. The difference is dramatic when I do the CPC 11 streams from the other side of the house, where like there's absolutely no vibration. It's perfect. So very close to perfect. Nothing is perfect. Shockwave says, look into what's called the morphogenic field. Are you talking to me or other people? Because I've been following the Rupert Sheldrake morphogenic stuff since 2008, 9, maybe a little bit later than that. That's when he first started talking about it. And it's interesting because people really he's right on that cusp. I didn't know about Rupert Sheldrake doing talks with Terence McKenna. That's that new stuff that or at least stuff that just surfaced on YouTube. So Terence McKenna used to have sessions with, I can't remember the third guy's name, but it was McKenna, somebody, and Rupert Sheldrake. And they talked about, he's been on this morphogenic field for a lot longer. So yeah, I definitely concur. But the other thing though is, I don't know, it's kind of amazing that he hasn't gotten a larger following and more people know about it, because he's really been at it for so long. He's done the real research. He's done research about how people feel like they know somebody's about to call them, or when pets know that their owners are coming home. So he's done experiments like that where he's done actual thousands and thousands of tests, making sure that this is not just a coincidence, but that pets know when their parents or their guardians are leaving to come home to them. And mothers know if their children are in harm or in danger. They can feel it from a distance. So that's one of the things that Rupert Sheldrake talks about, besides things like the shared energy field. This is what a lot of people call the Akashic record or the Vedic record, but really it makes a lot more sense that it's just magnetic plasma layers, bubbles, if you will. And that, even when I think scalar waves, I feel it's the same sort of thing. Waves aren't really a thing. Waves are what something does. So scalar waves feel almost akin to, maybe not supersymmetry, but symmetry and fractal symmetry throughout all these different sizes is what we view as size. So scalar waves are really maybe these magnetic bubbles or plasma layers. That's my opinion. But yeah, Rupert Sheldrake, pretty dope. I'm gonna stay with the space too. Not gonna neglect the moon tonight. Typically I could just talk about stuff, but so I just want to make note of Sea of Serenity being a pentagon-ish shape, Sea of Tranquility also having a sort of hexagon but with a couple of squares, almost a mirror of that, with the Mare Nectaris, Mare Fecunditatis to the right of that, and then Mare Crisium, like I said yesterday, and it still looks like it tonight, a little less so, looks a little more round tonight, but hexagon, faux show, electricity, faux show. I'm gonna check in on Jupiter, let's see what it looks like. So I got some Jupiter in view. I randomly clicked on a little thumbnail that I had, so there's going to be a little moon that pops up in the corner for half a sec. But there are some labels. Got Callisto Ganymede, and on the right we got Io and Europa. This is the cam direct to scope right now. What's up, Rockstar? And whoever else is joining. I'm a Dogs, oh yeah. What's up? TM.Y, what is that? All right, let me know if I missed you. Gonna zoom in and see if we got like a great red storm tonight. Not sure if we do, but it looks like we might. I love it. I'm typing the most complicated stuff. Yeah, it's interesting because basically, like, the story does say that Saturn probably birthed something, and that's Venus, right? So I hadn't really heard that for a long time. I thought it was Venus birthed of Jupiter from the Great Red Storm, but that's an interesting concept that I kind of just learned about, and it does make sense that that could be the case. But similarly, like, yeah, I would wonder what birthed of Jupiter's Great Red Storm, like you said, or you mentioned, said birth Titan. Yeah, but that's Saturn. Yeah. I mean, I wonder if, like, every planet births its own moon, possibly, or at least they grow together on a system. I find it really fascinating, like, how different Earth is. You know, is it because of its electrical charge? Is it because it's somehow in some particular type of plasma sheath that's different than Mars was? Or maybe it just wasn't close enough to get stripped. Hey Mary, take care. So glad you stopped by. Catch you soon. So Shockwave, yeah. And then I asked if Jupiter had rings, and apparently you're saying it does now. It has rings. So I guess they're much, much finer and much thinner or maybe at such an angle to us that we can't see them from Earth. I definitely like have a parallel observation when I look into space as like the coincidence or the fact that we can see things the way we do currently is not lost on me in terms of the awe. So there's always like at least 30% of my brain going like, holy shit, like how does this even exist? You know, and then the other 70% is just trying to decipher. Actually, no, like at least 50% of that is just running this, and then 20% is just trying to keep up with all the crazy facts being slung at me day and night. Some moons are captured, some created. I mean, I know you're writing that. I wonder, like some made in the Z pinches. I guess I would assume that, yeah, there are probably all sorts of types. It's hard to kind of trace back that origin. I guess they do this kind of soil matching or spectral analysis. But even then, like we've been saying the last couple of streams, like it's really hard to gauge anything beyond 4 to 10,000 years, maybe 10,000 years or 20,000 being the upper limit of carbon dating where you can feel really sure about it. So it's kind of amazing to go from a universe where we felt, or I felt at least, that scientists had really had a sense of how old the world was, to a point now where we really don't. Just a lot to contemplate. Let's roll some music for a bit and then check on Saturn, and then we'll go back to the moon.
Say no.
the mic. We got a really cool shot of Saturn. It's just the wide shot still, so I was zoomed in. I'll hit the 3x a little bit later. But right now, we got brightest star Titan, brightest moon rather, Titan. And then I'll go around and I'll reference the rest. Let me find it real quick. Keeping track of everything tonight. I was like hanging out at Jupiter for a while. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I realized like there's the moon racing to set. All right, so Titan, the brightest spot. And then above that, you got Dione. To the left of that, Enceladus. To the left of that, Rhea. Above Saturn, to the top left is Tethys. And that's I think all we can see right now. The rest are stars. Oh, actually, Eyepieces is to the top left. Very light. Eyepieces. I think I got that right. Shockwave. Anyway, jumping into the chat. What's going on, Duplicat? An electric evening to you. And same thing to C. Smith, Justin T, Zorro, what's happening? And Rockstar, what's going on? Let me know if I missed you. How's the weather where all of y'all are at? Can you see this beautiful alignment of Saturn, Jupiter, and the moon from where you're at? Let me know. Or just let me know how you're doing. 10:35 in South Florida. It was really hot. Like 30 minutes ago, it was like sweltering, but somehow it got cool, which is great. Very happy. My coffee situation is almost over, so I'll toast you guys with the rest of this. What's up, Cleary? And what's up, Guitar Lots? How you doing? Eyepieces. I'll get it, I promise. Is it Eyepieces? No. Eyepieces. All right, let's see what everybody says. C. Smith says, still bright out, only 8:30 here. Tammy says, partly cloudy, better now with space in my face, up close. Chakras, you'll get it right one day. Eyepieces. Atus. All right, I'm gonna head back to the moon and then we'll do some more Saturn later. Shockwave, you got your fill for a moment? I can start. I actually have the Saturnian cosmology pulled up, Ralph Juergens stuff. I was gonna talk a little bit about it. I sometimes feel weird about narrating or reading people's stuff online. I wonder if it's boring or droning. But let me know if you want me to read a little bit of Ralph Juergens' The Origin of Lunar Sinuous Rills. Give me a thumbs up in the chat. Doo-doo. You got it now, say it fast. Eyepieces. 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 I hope that's right. Anyway, I don't want to annoy the crap out of people. I'll practice it on my own time, thank you. And then, yeah. Super Must See says, I'm in the UK, the weather is always crazy, one day nice, the next day downpours. C. Smith says, Calgary, AB for meow. All right, everybody's being chill. Everybody's probably got this thing on full screen, I hope, with 4K. What up, Light Moon? All right, I'm gonna put on a jam and then we're gonna head back to the moon. Let's do it. All right. Yo, Shockwave, take it easy. Catch you on another one soon. Have a good night. All right, we're just playing some of that new jam. I'm gonna put on a nice droning backing track, and let's talk a little bit about some Ralph Juergens Saturnian cosmology. Yo, hell yeah. Happy to provide views of Saturn. I love when people are like obsessed with a particular view of space, and I can provide that, so that's super cool. Nah, I understood. I got you. Where's my long jam? Where you be at? Let's do this one. So it looks a little cloudy out, but yeah, no joke. That just totally engulfed the moon. Let's see what happens. I hope it's not a storm coming through. I'm gonna keep an eye on it. But may as well just start this. So this is, I'm gonna paste the link for y'all. You don't have to follow along. I'll just read little excerpts from it. But so this is from the Ponce Journal 2 from 1974. I believe Ponce is either somebody's name, but penser is also to think, I think in French. I think some of this stuff is actually translated, but so, according to Velikovsky's collation of ancient historical accounts, the most recent period of turmoil in the solar system ended less than 2,700 years ago. Territorial disputes that continued for nearly a full century brought Venus, Mars, the Earth, and the Moon into repeated conflicts, scarring all of them to varying degrees. And since all of this happened so very recently in geologic time, most of these battle scars should still be prominent and fresh-looking. But what kind of a surface marking might be distinctively attributable to close encounters between planets? Religious, historical, and literary texts describing the battle of the planetary gods are fraught with references to cosmic lightnings and thunderbolts. This implication, emphasized by Velikovsky in numerous writings, is that electric discharge took place between planetary bodies during their close approaches. Furthermore, such discharges were evidently of such magnitude as to be visible from Earth even when they did not actually terminate on Earth. They must therefore have involved enormous exchanges of energy and have produced scars of commensurate proportions. In this and a sequel article, I intend to suggest that electrical scars of vast proportions are indeed in evidence, particularly on the surface of Mars and the Moon. I will emphasize that it is just such markings that constitute the most recent features of those bodies. Yep, Duplicate says Ponce. Actually, that's interesting. Ponce de Leon is spelled that way, but I think this is spelled P-E-N-S-E-E, Ponce. And I think in French it's P-E-N-S-E-R is to think. So it's like a journal of science, I believe. Ponce. Penser, to think, right? So that's the intro from Pensée. Getting our moon back, but very wibbly wobbly. I'm gonna keep going until somebody stops me and asks a question. All right. All right, Velikovsky quotes Pliny's description of a cosmic thunderbolt. Heavenly fire is spit forth by a planet as crackling charcoal flies from a burning log. This homely simile seems congruent with ancient artistic tradition. Early Greek sculptors portraying Zeus, for example, poised him like a quarterback about to launch a football-shaped thunderbolt. The impression gained from both these lines of evidence is that the thunderbolts thus referred to and depicted were not luminous streamers akin to atmospheric lightning, but luminous objects of missile-like proportions. If so, it seems likely that such thunderbolts were the nature of the plasmoids described some years ago by Winston Bostick of Stevens Institute of Technology. These objects, pieces of plasma, with unexpected capacity for maintaining their identity, were fired from the electrodes of a plasma gun. I keep forgetting to zoom in. Let me zoom in here. That's much better. They emerged from the gun in donut form, then expanded axially to form long cylinders. When fired into thin gas, they bent themselves double and twisted into forms resembling screws. This suggests, if we are correct in equating plasmoids and thunderbolts, and cosmic thunderbolts, that the early Greek sculptors may have detailed the thunderbolts of Zeus with screw-like twists at each end on the basis of accurate descriptions passed down by their ancestors. While such plasmoids are created in the laboratory by an electric discharge at the muzzle of a plasma gun, they are not transporters of electric charge. Their plasma consists of essentially equal numbers of electrons and positive ions. The same could be well true of a cosmic thunderbolt. At its impact site, though impressive, might be indistinguishable from an explosion crater produced by the impact of a meteoroid. Thus, finding an explosion crater less than 3,000 years old, though it would upset a number of theories now current among scientists, would be of little help in solving the problem we have posed. Let's keep going. All right. What we seek is some fairly unequivocal evidence of electric scarring. It's funny, I'm reading somebody else's words, but this is what I actually really feel. So after 5 years of doing this, this is really what we're after. Looking at the moon right now, this is what we can do today in terms of carrying on the tradition of these scientists who asked questions and tried to change the paradigms and tried to open up science. So, to continue, what we seek is some fairly unequivocal evidence of electric scarring, evidence suggesting that electric charges actually were exchanged, with one body serving as a cathode, negative electrode, and the other as an anode, the positive electrode. In such an exchange, the scarring sustained by one body would be different from that sustained by the other. But there are 4 bodies under consideration. Which two make a pair offering the best prospects for the present inquiry? Which two make a pair offering the best prospects for the present inquiry? Perhaps Homer has passed along a useful clue. The Greeks attributed the forging of thunderbolts to Hephaestus. Homer further recounts that Hephaestus forged a net, in quotes, fine as gossamer but quite unbreakable, which he used to entangle his wife, unfaithful Aphrodite, the moon, and her tempestuous lover Ares, the planet Mars, and bind them together long enough for several other gods to come by and make sport of them. Could this net have been another of Hephaestus's electrical artifacts? This question occurred to me one day as I was leafing through the newly purchased paperback with the rather unexciting title Gaseous Conductors, Theory and Engineering Applications. There on page 189 was a photograph of two spheres with sparks streaming between them. The photo caption and accompanying text describe the phenomenon as the formative stages of sphere gap breakdown, with well-defined spark channels being propagated from anode to cathode. In addition, there's evidence of a glow discharge throughout the gap. My mind's eye saw Mars and the Moon struggling to part from one another in the skies of the 8th century. Is it conceivable that Mars and the Moon could have been intimately bound, presumably orbiting one another at close range by gravitational electromagnetic forces and joined by electrical streamers for so long a period? Days? Sorry, let's see. For so long a period. Hours? Days? As to give rise to Homer's outrageous tale? More pointedly, could sparks have reached out and bridged an empty space between two planets orbiting at a great distance enough to spare them gravitational disruption? All right. Those are some large questions. It's like an assault on the current cosmology, and I love it. But so much just in a couple of paragraphs about how we really have no idea how and if these planets interacted and how that worked, but the evidence really takes your mind to that place of thinking about this. All right, let's jump into the chat for a sec. Right, Zoro says the ancient Greeks and Romans knew that Jupiter/Zeus threw electric thunderbolts. Yep, that's really this whole kind of tie-in with plasma cosmology and plasma astrophysics, is that our ancestors really recorded a lot of what happened in the skies up to, 2,000 to 5,000 years. And they left records. And so we live in a society where the media and Hollywood has basically made and mixed so many of these concepts up that we kind of look at them as mythology and magic and made up, stories versus actual astronomy, which is what we're doing now as well. Like right now, everybody in this channel, including me, is actively engaging in observational astronomy. Some of you are engaging in lunar geology. Some of you are engaging in philosophical, questioning. Some of you are engaging in different types of just levels of thinking and engagement right now. And so were our ancestors with different types of tools, and they would write down and kind of log space with this geometry and these stories. And these stories, now that we have the internet to kind of see them and do an A/B comparison to what media is telling us these stories mean versus what looks like we can see, the way we can match ancient symbology and ancient cosmology with the space that we see for real in the sky today. So it's a very broad but also very deep and resonant connection. What's going on, Mark Kotzer? Can you show the other side? I can show the dark side, which is the Earthshine portion. Move it over, but it's actually quite cloudy right now, or at least misty. And so I don't think we'll see a lot of it, but I'm gonna turn up the ISO here, see what's going on. Yeah, you'll see, typically you could see the dark side limb, but right now the haze is way too thick. Let's see if it clears up just a little bit. I mean, I don't know if you guys were here yesterday or understand what I'm talking about when it comes to the hexagons on the craters or on the moon, or, you know, all the craters being hexagons in geometry. I'm sure you all do. I don't mean to be patronizing, but for me it's just unbelievable how I've kind of noticed it for so long, but I didn't really make the connection that it's really just very simple, like pentagons, hexagons, octagons, things that seem circular at different angles actually show their features very clearly. And so it's so funny to do so many shows and then to finally, like now, after all these shows, be like, okay, I'm sure these are shapes, cellular shapes, electric shapes, without much hesitation. So yeah, moon's pretty hazy. It's gonna be hard to see the dark side. Let's dim it down a little bit. There's very, very clear geometry on Sea of Serenity and Sea of Tranquility. That's what I was gonna talk about. Like, how many times have we looked at this particular feature and not really noticed how particularly sharp the pentagons really. This is particularly two pentagons with the sharing one side, so dead center of the screen. Actually, let me see if I can make a note. I looked for this overlay OBS pen thing, but it doesn't seem to run properly. I'll do some more research on it. Yeah, so where I have the text that's being covered, that's the shared side, and there's a pentagon looking up and a pentagon looking down. Let's see when it comes back. I'll take 400 moon hexes, moon pentas. I mean, man, that would be cool to go back to coins that were actually cool geometry shapes. So just all different sides representing the value. All right, I'm gonna keep reading some of that. Actually, let me know if you want me to keep reading some of the Ponce article. Yeah, I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to create some shapes as images, and then I'm going to bring them into OBS until we can draw on top of it. But it's really clear, like, once you kind of catch what you're looking for, which is basically like straight edge, angle, wide angles, like basically 110 to 120 degree angles. And then you basically start seeing tons of very, very coordinated, very crystal lattice geometry on the surface of the moon. I would bet the same thing happens if you could see Mars up close, and if you saw Ceres up close, Ceres. Yeah, I kind of hope the mist chills a little bit because the clarity is not bad. It's just super wibbly. But let's look at a little bit at the south portion. You can see that's a little bit more, almost looks like a golf ball at the very bottom. And I wanted to find, yeah, I know what I was trying to say. Like there's albigetanus crater that I wanted to look at, which is obscured. I think what I'm going to do is go give some Jupiter and Saturn love while the moon deals with these clouds, and I'll find y'all a song to cruise to. What about this one's cool. Yo, what up? Eat all your fish? Yo, yo, what's going on? Nth degree aerial perspectives, welcome. And yeah, I got Jupiter in view. They totally got like a bit wet in the atmosphere, so Jupiter's looking wobbly just like the moon. It's these kind of white, not-lucent clouds, super naughty. And that's the way it goes sometimes when you're taking space back. Let me read a little bit more. But I'll find something to talk over. Need a long track. Let's find a long track. All right. What's going on, Nancy? Welcome, welcome. Duplicate says, just think of all the wisdom we've accumulated. Now if I can only remember where I put it. So true. But I feel like, I was talking about that, I feel like our intelligence is much more heightened, but there's so much to account for that it feels impossible to keep track of. So it's an ever-losing win-lose scenario, just every day. You feel like you're so empowered and then so broken apart and confused. Or at least that's how I feel. Ooh, clouds are really messing around. Let's see. I'm just gonna keep it bright. Actually, it wants to mess with us, so let's go to Saturn. Basically chasing, the clouds are chasing me. Hopefully, we'll kind of move through, and by midnight we'll get like a clear ass shot. Alright, Saturn in view. Let's keep on with our Saturn cosmology. So, back to more pointedly, could sparks have reached out and bridged empty space between two planets orbiting at a distance? Enough to spare them gravitational disruption? I came across an affirmative answer to this last question in Leonard Loeb's Fundamentals of Electricity and Magnetism. Discussing vacuum sparks, Loeb relates an anecdote to show that, while theory might suggest that sparks, gas breakdown phenomena, are impossible in a vacuum, industrial experience shows them to be not only possible, but all too frequent and troublesome. He explains that somehow the spark must create its own gas. The mechanism involves the emission of electrons by solids in the presence of strong electric fields. These electrons, literally pulled out of the solid materials, shoot across the vacuum gap to the anode, where they liberate gas and ionize it. Positive ions, thus formed, then thread their way back to the electron source as luminous streamers. Upon striking the cathode, the ion often fuses its surface and forms a crater at the point of impact. If the electrodes have not been carefully outgassed in advance, enough gas may be generated to lead to a general breakdown in the gap, and a power arc even more destructive to the cathode may be ignited in the gap. If sparks can thus be produced in the laboratory and industrial vacua, it seems within reason to suppose that the same thing can happen in near vacuum of interplanetary space. The question remains as to just how Mars and the Moon might have been so long detained as to give rise to their love affair story. Clearly, there are many factors to be considered. Electrostatic, electromagnetic, and gravitational forces between the two bodies during approach, congress, and separation, influences of the nearby Earth on both the participants, influences of Venus, which was in and out of these celestial battles, and whatever effects the Sun itself may have had. But this is a problem outside the boundaries of present inquiry. Alright, that's the end of the first part. We were talking basically, this is called Of the Moon and Mars, Part 1, The Origins of the Lunar Sinuous Rills. So this kind of snaking, what look like rivers on the moon, by Ralph Juergens. And I was reading a bunch of stuff that was really related to their postulation as to whether electric scarification happened on surface of planets and moons, as a byproduct of electrical interaction of proximity in the plasma ether, I would say. So that's how I understand it, and they give reference to plasma guns. This is a really interesting paper that I've read only a few times. Actually, this is probably the second time I've done it on stream, but there's a lot to learn and a lot to dissect. But that was the first part. I'm gonna take a little break, get a drink. It's pretty cloudy, it seems. So we'll chill for a little while, see what goes on. It doesn't look like it's gonna rain. So we'll get some space. I'm gonna find us a little tune to jam to. Out, Zora. Yeah, it's a chill night tonight. Nice cloudy moon. They're clear a little bit.
Sit around town until
What's up, everybody? Thanks for hanging out so long. Almost at 2 hours. The moon is on his way to set. Regulating that light incoming. Just messing around with those inversions. What I really wanted to call out, I know I've let some tracks play, but it was good. Got a little zoned out here with my pasta. I'm done though. It's interesting cooking for one, you get so much pasta out of one box. It's insane, it's like 6 meals. That's the only thing I may like store for later, but I don't think it'll make it through the night. Right after streams, I get very hungry. Okay, so what I wanted to call out, oh man, every time I move over to the mic, the clouds come through. Really what it is that Sea of Serenity, Sea of Tranquility, Crisium, Fecunditatis, basically all the Mare, or the Maria, the general, really are very geometric shapes, which implies that the source of their formation had to be organized. And that means really the idea that the moon was impacted and then these basins were created seems illogical. And it's very clear once you start looking for hexagons and pentagons. You see it everywhere. But mainly really, I mean, I was really just looking for certain craters and thinking, oh, there are just a few that are hexagons. But then you realize that Mare Crisium itself, Serenity's a pentagon, sharing an edge with Sea of Tranquility, and then at the bottom you see Sea of Mare Nectaris and Mare Fecunditatis next to each other, both of them either hexagons or pentagons, just amazing. So, and a reminder to check out all the great electric universe and plasma cosmology and proto-Saturnian cosmology description in my videos. But just, I'll read them off real quick, because when you say things, things happen. Go check out, let's see. Yeah, go check out Electro Terra Vision, check out Greg J, check out Electric Universe Eyes, check out the Electric View, check out See the Pattern, check out Kronos with a K. Kronos. Check out Suspicious Observers, Ben Davidson. Check out Thunderbolts Project. And then beyond that, I have links to Halton Arp. Check out Anthony Peratt, Ralph Juergens, Sky Scholar, Stephen Crothers, David Talbot, and The Works. Always good to shout these people out. Gave us a way to really interpret the world in a less offensive, destructive, and impossible way. It's great. We get to forge ahead with some really interesting concepts and our own connection to science. What's going on, Fresh? Joining us towards the end of the show, but what's happening says, in my opinion, the sun does not light the moon. How big does NASA say the moon is? Like I said the other night, there's a lot of stuff to be pissed about or to be suspect of, but honestly, the best solution to that is to make some awesome content, write a song, research something, learn a skill. There's no point in banging your head against a private government agency that is not supposed to really work for you. It pretends to, but it doesn't. So I always say that, like, you lean on these, we tend to want to lean on agencies and corporations to do things for the people, but they only act in their best interest. I would recommend looking at Network and the speech that Ned Beatty gives about America being just a bunch of corporations working. They don't even work for themselves anymore. They work for the holistic whole of the universe. So everything is justified. So I don't know why anyone I remember I used to expect NASA to give me data that I wanted, but they give you data that they want to give you. So less annoyances if you don't expect it. Yo, peace out, Tammy. Have a great one. So the moon has a nice little tint right now. It's close to being set. I think that's when I'm going to close the show down. But we'll see it till it sets and check out Jupiter and Saturn for a moment and take full advantage of every night I have to do space, because you never know the weather over the next month or two. Plus, I think it's tomorrow we're going to have the moon a little bit closer to Jupiter, and then the night after tomorrow is going to be Jupiter and the moon really close together, or like as close as it's been in a while. I want to get a shot at that with both of them in frame. We'll see, I might be able to do it. Super Musty says, I'm far too busy studying the human race. I study space in my next life. Yep, there's just a lot to cover, a lot of ground to cover, a lot of space to cover. But anyway, Fresh, I'm going to repeat the questions that he asked. Because, or not, let's see. It's also about waking people up. I don't think that's also it's nobody's job to wake anybody up. You could think that that sounds hypocritical because I'm doing a show that so-called wakes people up, but it's not really about that, I think. I think it's just, you have to work on your own understanding before you can even suggest anything to people. And even then, you have to question why you want to suggest things to people. Do you have a motive, What's the other thing? Opening up people's eyes to the fact that the government never tells us. Yep, I agree with that. It's up to the people. No one told me that fact, just saying. Yeah, I agree with most of that. I just don't know if it's anybody's duty to save anybody or save the world or at all. I think you can do it, but I don't think it's you have to do it, Anyways, C. Smith, you're heading out or no? Yeah, I think it was Tammy who's gone. Let me know. But we still got a nice view of the moon. Fresh 75 says, I know already, that's why I share facts. So, I'm not going to get into a back and forth like that just because everybody's here hanging out. But I honestly think that saying that you know things for sure is a difficult way to move forward on a lot of topics. But you're entitled to your thoughts. I think I'm going to finish up on that Ponce article. Got the right backing track. There's no fun actually in knowing, honestly. All the fun is in speculating. It feels so limiting to just be fixated on a particular topic and say, that's it, that's basically what settled science does. It's so funny to me, and the irony is completely lost on individuals who believe certain conspiracies to the point where they limit themselves in the ways that they hate the government limits them. Electrical scars on the moon. The moon, with no atmosphere and therefore no weather to alter its features, seems the logical place to look for scars of electrical origin. Immediately we face a problem, however. Seeming evidence of violent electrical activity on the moon is so abundant that we are hard put to decide which scars to examine first. For example, British amateur astronomer Brian J. Ford published a paper some years ago in which he presented a strong case for the idea that most craters on the moon are marks left by electrical discharge on a cosmic scale. He backed up his arguments with a report on laboratory experiments in which he used spark machining apparatus to reproduce in miniature such otherwise mysterious features of the moon craters with central peaks, small craters preferentially perched on the high rims of larger craters, and craters strung out in long chains. Then there are the raid craters, which from all appearances are the freshest craters on the moon. Velikovsky is on record as believing them to be discharge craters, as distinct from others without rays, for which he favors a gas bubble origin. But raid craters, though relatively few in numbers, among all lunar craters, are still so abundant as to be confusing. And then there's more evidence to be sifted. Alright. I love the way they're talking about this stuff. This is 1974, right? So homebrew astronomy is like still is pretty strong. I mean, it's almost like what we have today in terms of that kind of passion. But probably a lot fewer people had telescopes. People like Ralph Juergens had to go out and like get telescope time at the large scopes. There weren't a lot of them, as many as there are now. And he was referencing things that it's just so funny. It's the same type of thought process. He says, immediately we face a problem. However, seeming evidence of violent electrical activity on the moon is so abundant that we are hard put to decide which scars to examine first. And it's so true. Like, look at the moon in front of you right now. Every single feature pretty much has enough data to completely go into long stories and creation stories and, not religious creation, but lunar geological formations. What caused this? What type of electrical scar? Like, what interaction? When did it happen? How old is the moon? Is it expanding? Is it moving away from us? Did it capture us? Was it birthed in Jupiter? Like, any number of things. Did it come from a different solar system entirely? So there's so much moon, there's so many questions about the moon that when you watch, for example, my kind of beef with popular science is that when you see documentaries about the moon, or you see discussions or panels where people are talking about space and the moon, the two things that are really lacking are granularity, like details, and or advancements in details, and two, real footage of the actual thing they're talking about. So it's really crazy to me that, for example, Carolyn Porco, Porco, the head of the Cassini missions for 10 plus years, was giving her summary breakdown of the Cassini-Huygens after they crashed it into Saturn. And she was going through her slideshow about all the different pictures and what Cassini meant and everything. And when you really watch this, and you just remove the nostalgia and the storytelling that NASA has come to be known for, this kind of very heartstring Americana, where they tug at you and flag pin you to death until you feel some sort of thing, some sort of nationalistic pride in NASA, and then they feed you a story that they want you to see. And that doesn't mean that some of the technology doesn't exist. It definitely does. But the point is, we live in this program, in the space program, that seems like a fairy tale, like an American Hollywood fairy tale, versus what it really should be, which is the moon right now through the current technology. And so Carolyn Porco doesn't have a live shot of Saturn from some awesome telescope in Peru behind her at her summary of like the largest, the most important mission ever to Saturn. Like she's going through like a very primitive slideshow, and not to mention there are slides that are, I know I'm bitching right now, but whatever. Like she's going through slides that have animated GIFs in them about Star Trek and have little alien things and X-Files references. And this whole summary of her Cassini mission, I know I would watch it with a number of people that would say, what do you mean? She's being cute and she's being nostalgic, and they develop this relationship with the rovers and the satellites, and like, where's your heart? But then I would remind them that, flying to Saturn and spending 10 years taking pictures of Saturn is nothing short of astounding. It's not just some anecdotal, meetup in Europe and hike to the Alps. Like, that's impressive and cool, but it's not going to fucking, excuse my language, Saturn, or to the moon, for example. And the way the moon and Saturn, all these missions are portrayed in the media are like, oh, it was a product of the Cold War, and India just did this amazing thing. Snap, 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 2 seconds of weird footage, weird reporters, any type of update on LRO, or just any type of update on space is just like an assault on the senses in terms of understanding, detail, politeness, objectivity. It's all just hypocritical, blithering drivel. It's drivel, man. Gotta love Wal Thornhill. Those guys are just like searching to find contemporary colloquialisms to describe how abhorrent contemporary pop sci is, with their torturing the English language to find some sort of meaning in magical systems that they've created. Spooky dark matter. Spooky language. You want people to believe in you? Spooky language. George Carlin, thank you for teaching us. Yeah, what's going on in the chat? Yeah. These, like I said though, I do very much believe that there is very high level technology. I don't think anything is really like out of bounds. So UFOs possible, space travel possible. So here's a perfect example of what nobody really considers, is that space is these magnetic Birkeland currents. So you create a spacecraft that travels along Birkeland currents. And if you look up that line of research, you'll realize that, that stuff is already, at least 40, 50 years old. So you think that's the type of stuff that's being used in space, then space travel is possible. So I wouldn't discount and say everything is fake necessarily. I would just say that the public is fed an image of space that is completely just abhorrent. And similarly, the acceptance of these propagandistic movies, like all the Marvel stuff, just any number of movies that basically warp and distort mythos and trick people into thinking certain things and misrepresent our real culture, are doing a huge disservice. But, you're not going to stop that. Ultimately, I think for each person, everybody gets their own version that they're able to kind of comprehend and enjoy. And I don't know, for me, it's so nice to be able to get away from not conspiracy world, but conspiracy world. It's like, it's enjoyable, it's interesting, there are lots of good thoughts. It definitely happens. There are definitely conspiracies, but it's so much more calming and exciting to look at the universe in a generative, connected, fulfilling way versus an antagonistic, rebellious, vengeful way, which is what I felt early in my life. I'm like, these people are lying to me. These guys are lying to me. And these guys are robbing me. And whether it's true or not, it doesn't mean that's going to change, because the only thing that really changes is your attitude about it. And that seems to be the whole challenge in life. It's not that pain and suffering will go away. It's that you learn to deal with pain and suffering like a champ. That's what I think. Spooky language. Tom Buddha says 600 billion to NASA by now. Did you get a response? But think about how many more taxes to so many other projects. Did you get a response to healthcare or roads or Amtrak or the healthcare, or teachers or equality or any number of things? The system is so corrupt at every level that the idea that this whole thing with the space program is fucking us, that's not it. Like, you hear that I agree that it sucks that it's presented in a really patronizing and infantile way and mythological way versus allowing people to really understand their history, our culture, releasing all the looted materials from all the wars in the Vatican and the Smithsonian, talking about that every day, teaching people about our history would be much better. But the fact that that's not going to happen means that life is this constant adventure of figuring it out every day. It seems to me that the ultimate dream would be a dream that kept giving, no matter how deep you dug. So we dig deep and we find more, and then we dig deeper and we find even more. And that's that whole idea of the fractal universe or the holographic universe, mostly information at every level, organized in a different way, but it's all the same information. Look, like, you go through 100 stories from NASA or SpaceX or any number of government conspiracies and be like, screw these guys, damn these guys, they're robbing me, they're screwing me, they have their own nefarious desires, and you wouldn't be wrong, but you'd also be filling your life with just lamenting the situation as opposed to creating new material and replacing that crap with new material and new ideas and positive ideas. Does that make sense? Like, from day one for TakeBackSpace, that was what it was all about. Because, like, NASA is not necessarily bad. For them, they're very good. For us, they're not necessarily so good. So to think that they're supposed to be good and get mad at them for that doesn't seem to make any sense. So I'm not going to do any zoomed in shots. I'm just watching our beautiful moon set, rolling on with dimming of the light of the moon. And clouds roll in. I'm going to do a nice check-in on the planets before we hang out. Before we hang up. Before we hang out. Thursday, 8/8. Appreciate everybody hanging out, listening to me rant, talk about all this crap. pretty meaningful and all pretty meaningless all at the same time in the best way possible. So good night, Moon. Let's head on over to Jovia, the Jovian Sistemo. Peeps, I think it's time. It's been a good show. The views are a little bit wibbly, so I'm gonna use this time to eat some more pasta and just enjoy the rest of the night, or the morning rather. Hope y'all have a great day tomorrow. Thanks for joining on another TakeBackSpace stream. Everything is damn electric, I tell you. At least the craters on the moon are. And our connection. Thanks Fresh, thanks Tom, thanks C. Smith, thanks Ellie, thanks Tammy, thanks MM, yo, sorry I missed you earlier. Super Must See, Light Moon, Duplicat. Wow. See you on the EU side. Everybody check out Thunderbolt's project if you haven't. I know you have. And Nancy, I know I saw you earlier. Nth Degree, Zorro, Justin. All right, that's all I got. Catch y'all real soon. Take care. And Bonnie knew it.
Hallelujah.
Calling in from outer space, behold, and I'm nowhere to lie. Say that we have a tree, and tell me what you'd do with it if you were me.